One of the worst jails I've ever seen. Immediately, my first day into the recreation guard, I seen a guy get cut, and they passed him the weapon, and the guy he passes the weapon to cuts him.
Melo grew up in poverty on the Lower East Side. The streets got him as a teenager, and prison held him for 13 years. From Rikers to max security, he's exposing the raw, brutal truths of life behind bars and how he's fighting for redemption. Melo, welcome to Locked In, man. Nems' cousin hooked us up. If you guys haven't watched that Nems episode, it's out now. Everyone's been raving about it, and I'm so glad he drove you up here today to do this again.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I enjoy your content. Watch a lot of your stuff on the road.
Awesome. Were you guys? I know he was, but did you watch it before that we all linked together?
I seen shorts. I seen all your shorts and all that. But when we left, I looked more into it in depth.
That's awesome. And I watched your interview. Whose channel was that?
Pistol Pete, Dog in the Yard.
I just found out that there's a couple Pistol Petes, right?
Yeah, there is.
Okay, I didn't know that. Someone was telling me about Pistol Pete, and I was telling them about your interview, and they're like, "Oh no, this is a different Pistol Pete."
Probably talking about from the Bronx.
Okay.
He's like sex, money, murder.
Okay. Did you grow up in the Bronx?
I grew up in the Lower East Side.
Lower East Side. Who'd you grow up with?
I grew up with my neighborhood friends. My guys, it was like a family.
Mom and dad in the picture?
My dad died when I was 3. A single parent household, just me and my sister, growing up in NYCHA. Just regular projects, regular neighborhood, regular upbringing, low income. Just coming from poverty, public schools, you know.
What'd your mom do for work?
My mom was, she actually worked in the bank. And then when she had me, she developed chronic asthma. So she was on disability. And that's how it was growing up. I remember the food stamps. You ever seen the food stamps?
No.
It was like coupons, and they came in colors. And when you whip them out your pocket, people make fun of you in the store because they knew you were broke. Your mom was on food stamps.
Were your friends living that way too?
I don't really know how my friends' upbringings was. We would just be outside, just killing time, getting into shit.
How would people describe you at a young age? What were you like as a kid?
I was pretty smart. I had a lot of spunk, I was very nosy, very involved, very mixy, always into stuff.
Where do you think you got that from?
I mean, probably my dad. They say the apple don't fall too far from the tree. So I heard a lot of stories growing up about my dad, that there was a lot of similarities, things that we did.
What do you know about your dad?
I know my dad was addicted to drugs, but he was a fiend, but he was a gangster fiend. And he was highly loyal and well respected in the neighborhood growing up in Coney Island.
Did you want that kind of lifestyle, hearing those stories from people?
Well, he passed away when I was around 3 years old, so I wasn't privy to none of that. But my uncle came, his brother, and snatched me out of Lower East Side, took me to Coney Island, disciplined me, showed me how to be a man, and showed me how to do things. So that was my uncle that I got a lot of attributes from. And he was legendary. He was like a gangster coming out of Coney Island. He passed away recently, 23 days before I was released. He died from ALS. And he was a drug dealer from the 80s that he would have been one of the ones that got away. But toward the ending of his career, he got locked up. A guy set him up, one of his right hand men. He had a camera in his chain, and my uncle was out of the game, out of the drug business, and he kind of wheeled him back in, like sort of an entrapment. But it was illegal, and my uncle went to the feds for 7 years. He did about like 5 out of that. And that was right before I went to prison. I got shot. I was in high school in Coney Island. And he told me, like, he said, yo, you got shot. I heard you got shot. You gonna go back to the projects, or you gonna stay out here and go back? I can get you back into school. And he knew I was gonna go back to the projects or whatever. And he told me, all right, when you get locked up, don't call me and don't ask me for money. Straight like that. I said, all right, no problem. I was like 16 at the time. And then he went to prison literally like 6 months before me.
Do you think if you stayed in Coney Island, you never would have went to prison yourself?
100%.
Were you getting involved in criminal activity in Coney Island?
Never.
So you were on the straight and narrow, and he wanted a better life for you?
100%.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's ever possible to get out of the game like that?
I've seen it. It was like 1 out of a million. Not very rare. Very rare. He never was flashy, very smart, strategic. Took everybody. If an ice cream melted and it was 100-some degrees, he'd take everybody, the whole block, to the Donny Park. 5 cars deep, 50 people. Have the time of our life. But now things are different. Everything is like digitalized and cameras everywhere. So I don't know. It's not like the 80s or 90s or 2000s.
Tell us about that shooting when you were 16.
2005? 2006? 2006. My best friend, in 2006, my best friend, and he got this girl pregnant, and the girl was telling him that he's the father, and the other guy is the father, my boy is the father. They start beefing. We jumped him. Like, we seen him, we jumped him. He came back shooting. And from there, it was always a gunfight, always fireworks from there. And then I wound up getting involved on behalf of my friend. The guy shot me, I shot the guy. I was on a run, cops came looking for me. I jumped out the 5th floor window. But I was young. I was 16 years old. I had no record. I was released on my own with continence. And I came back outside and did it again.
Were you in a gang? What were you
I never was in a gang in my entire life. My friends were, but I was always neutral.
What was about that lifestyle that you were drawn to?
Just being a product of my environment. You go outside from elementary school, we used to play Skelsies.
What's that?
Skelsies is when you take a water bottle and you take the top and you put wax or clay in it and you play Skelsies, and you got to put the top in the box from 1 to 16, back from 16 to 1 again. So you got to shoot inside the box. And we used to play them games, but we used to go to the supermarket and steal the tops. This is like 5th, 4th, 6th grade. We will go in there, 12 of us, take the tops off the water bottles and the milk bottles, gallons, and run out. And that was like the beginning, the introduction of criminal behavior. Just little things like that is fun, but we're stealing and we're being criminally involved and doing things of that nature. And just that frame of thinking grows into selling crack and busting your gun and things like that. It starts off small. 10 years old, playing Scousies, kickball, dodgeball, manhunt. Then CeeLo.
I love CeeLo. I learned in prison.
I was the man in CeeLo in prison. But shooting dice, you know, then selling weed. Then you find out coke is double. Then you find out crack is triple. Then you find out heroin is quadruple. Then you find out there's other guys selling what you're selling, making money. And then you find out that the shit is saturated, right? Everybody has more or less the same customers. And then people begin beefing like that. Just like when, you know, they was beefing, the cars was beefing over you. The Connecticut car and the New York car. It's like that in the neighborhood. People are competing with each other and it turns violent.
You have good memory. I notice you listen and you take things in. And that was something from a couple weeks ago when I saw you, that story. And you remember it.
Yeah, because I was in prison with guys like you. And they were all my friends. Guys from upstate New York that used to talk about oasis and waterfalls and shit like that. Shit that I never heard of. Fishing and fucking hunting and shit like that. That's pretty cool.
I was probably never the type of person that you would hang out with or associate with in prison, right?
No, maybe not outside, but in prison, yeah, I was like, I used to help guys like you get on the phone. I was like, I used to harbor guys like you, because guys get bullied quick. Like, guys get it's predator and prey. And once they see you go in the commissary and they not, you know, they try to befriend you, you know what I'm saying? They try to friendly extort you. You know how that goes. You know how that shit goes. I did 13 years. I was incarcerated from 17 years old to 26 years old. And then I went back when I was 28 to 33. So literally 13 years of my life. That's why I like your stuff, because everything that you talk about, I live.
Before we jump more into today's episode, I need your help. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And great news, you can now comment on Spotify episodes too. So drop a comment and a review and let me know what you think of this episode. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, a rating and a review also goes a long way in helping us grow. Also, quick shout out to Shady Rays. They are giving out their best deal of the season exclusively for Locked In listeners. Head to shadyrays.com and use code LOCKEDIN to get 35% off polarized sunglasses. We will talk more about them later in this episode. I like that it's real, raw, emotional. Like, we don't edit it like what you say. I mean, everything Nem said in his interview was kept in the interview, you know? We don't sugarcoat it. The raw and emotion you're speaking in your interview now is just real, you know? It comes from right from the source. You can't find that anywhere.
But I love your concept because people overlook the story of the other guy, right? Because I remember vividly in prison the guys that weren't from the hood, you know what I'm saying? The guys that was in there for white collar crimes and things of that nature, right? They would be the ones that was always creative, making tattoo guns out of radios, making fucking dice out of fucking cereal bran flakes, you know, things of that nature. So I always used to gravitate towards them guys because them guys typically would be out of trouble, you know what I'm saying? But one thing you don't really talk about is the drugs in prison a lot. You ever, it was K2 prominent?
Yeah, I actually, it's funny you said that. I have an episode coming out in a couple days. It'll be out by the time your episode comes out. This guy, the mortgage crisis happened, and he was in real estate, lost everything, gets into the K2 business. He's selling K2 legally, then they change all the laws or whatever. He ends up getting a few years in prison for selling. He was 69 years old. Goes to prison for starting like a K2 empire. He's making a lot of money.
Wow.
And then come to find out he gets to federal prison and the K2s run rampant. But yeah, it was so bad. They would put up a chair in the bathroom because guys would just be hunched over during count time, messed up. You would have to carry the person to the cell, make them stand up. It was really bad. They were lacing it with PCP, all of that.
Because originally, when I was 2012, I want to say that's the first time I ever even heard of K2. It was called the Miley Cyrus, right? They was calling it Miley Cyrus because you would smoke it and it wouldn't pop up in the urine. So it was synthetic marijuana. So you would smoke the K2, be high, cotton mouth, red eyes, munchies, laughing, and it wouldn't come out in the urine. So that's why it was so hot, you know? And then guys started hitting it. Eventually by 2014, 2015, everything was sprayed with fentanyl. It had to, I don't know what they were spraying, what kind of chemicals it was to have them type of, I don't know, we used to call it, upstate New York, they call it epis. When you have an episode or whatever the case. And did they call out in the feds? Epi?
No, I never heard of that.
So when somebody trip out and they got to take them to the infirmary or whatever the case, there's no name for that?
Maybe like an incident or a crash out. Maybe crash out was the right word. Or I think they called it deuce too. Like
yeah, deuce.
K2, so he deuced out. Things like that. Or everyone just knew what was going on. These guys would lose it, you know? I remember the first time, like I was saying, walking in the bathroom and guys just slumped over. Incoherent. All off of K2. What they do is they drug test them, bring them the shoe. It comes back clean. They got to let them go. There's nothing they could do until they start testing for PCP.
Now they upstate, they just hit you for intoxication because you're intoxicated or whatever the case. But guys is making fucking thousands of dollars
off a sheet of paper. Now they do the photocopies, at least in the feds. They photocopy the mail. But before, people would get a sheet of paper and sell strips. They could make 10 grand off of one piece of paper.
Or ID cards. Yep. They sell ID cards or stamp size 50s. Crazy. And they used to do the, what was that called? Because they was at one point spraying it with tobacco. So you would just come into the yard or your program or wherever you're at with your pouch of tobacco, and the officers didn't even know that shit was fucking sprayed. They caught on eventually, but they didn't know. So people walking around with contraband, everybody just getting high. The whole jail was fucking deuced out their mind. And it looked like a fucking good time. It really did. And you got guys that were making heavy money. Cash App, Western Union. Cash App wasn't even a thing. It didn't even exist. Everything was MoneyGram and Western Union, and you had some guys living better in prison than they did in the town.
Yeah. So that first shooting happens at 16. You get released. You were mentioning that there was a second shooting that put you into prison?
It was my first time in prison, Rikers Island. I was facing 15 years. I was 17 years old, facing 15 years.
What was the shooting that happened?
My bail was $250,000. It was just a neighborhood misunderstanding, a lot of pride and ego. I had a reputation to uphold. So any type of act of violence or disrespect, I was quick going to draw. Then I was doing stuff and getting away with it, so it just enhanced my demon. It's just when you get that power, when you get away with shit and you just keep on doing it, and it just grows and people start treating you with respect, and it feeds your reputation. It's a beast. And if I didn't go to prison, I probably would have ended up a lot worse. Probably wouldn't even be here. Because I ultimately wound up 6 months later, going to prison for another shooting.
So there was 3 altogether?
No, 2.
Okay.
I didn't get in prison. I didn't go to prison for the first one.
That was what you were on bail for?
No. I was already on bail I wasn't on bail. I got released on my own recognizance.
Oh, so that's
so when I jumped out the window, they found 14 grams of coke, right? Which came back in the lab 9 grams. So essentially when I got out, I was looking for the guy that I got the coke from. Like, yo, you've been fucking shorting me this whole time, and then you know that I've been dealing with you for a long time, so you've been getting over on me a lot. You owe, and then you know what I've been doing out here. So now you got to pay. The guy kept on stringing me along. Essentially, I robbed him. I robbed him for his stuff, whatever. And then I went to jail on probation for jumping out the window for the cocaine. And then just pride and ego situation happened over CeeLo, where a guy didn't pay the money. So a fight broke out between me and the guy. And eventually our friends got involved and it turned into a neighborhood thing. This neighborhood versus that neighborhood. They were jumping my friends. And we were jumping their friends. And on this particular day in May 2007, I got into the confrontation with the guy who 3 years earlier sold me that gun. He sold me that weapon, and 3 years later we got into it and I shot him.
Did he snitch on you, or did someone see it? Was there a witness?
Yeah, he snitched on me right on the scene. He told the paramedics. It was Melo. I got away though. And I essentially, my family is the ones that made me turn myself in. Because NYPD was like harassing them or whatever. So I turned myself in and I wound up getting 8.5 years. My first introduction to prison. My first thought was, how am I gonna do this? I haven't even been here for fucking a month and I'm gonna get 8 years. And it was a learning experience. In New York State, if you get sentenced to anything over 7 years, they put you in a max. And if anything under 7 years, you get put to a medium. And the medium is essentially a dorm. 60 inmates, 1 officer, rec area, TV room, shower stalls, and bathroom stalls. 6 sinks. Then in the max over 7 years, which would be like jails like Clinton, Comstock, Elmira, Greenhaven, Sing Sing, is over 7 years. Over 7 years, and I think 15 years to your minimum release. Anything under than that, they put you in the medium, or whatever the case. One or either or, I forget. But my first jail was Clinton, Dannemora, where I got my GED from.
And that's the famous documentary that's out now about the people that escaped from there.
Yep. I was 18 years old. I was a plumber. I had like the pass to the jail, the whole jail, the catwalk, behind, upside down. I was so young. I was looking for the infamous people like Fat Cat and Shine, because they was locked down with us in APPU. So I would go when we would have work orders for a toilet or a sink stop up. I would always take the APPU up at H blocks, and I would run around there looking for the guy. Yo, where's Fat Cat? Yo, where's this guy? Or whatever the case. Never did I bump into them, but
I read his book in prison, the one the self-published book he did.
Fat Cat?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
When he justified what he did and why he did these. Yeah, I read that too.
Yeah, it was interesting to see because I was never exposed to that culture growing up. So for me to be where I was in prison and everything, a totally different environment, and just to read about that was very fascinating.
So when I went to his cell, he wasn't there, but his neighbor, it was a white guy. And I said, yo, what that guy do? He don't look dangerous. And the guy had arsenal. He burned the whole family down. He was doing like multiple life sentences. And that's when I was like, all right, I'm gonna stop looking for guys. Like, I'm just mind my business. And plus, so my first visit in Clinton, Dannemora, right? Check this out. Because I'm on a visit. It's December 2007. My first visit, just me and my mom. She's looking at this guy from across from us, and he got a big scar across his face. And in upstate, the first 2 numbers represent the year that you came up north, the first year that you came up north. So I had a 2007 number. It said 07R2447. So essentially, I came up in 2007. This guy had an 88 number. So he'd been incarcerated since he was in 1988. He's been locked up. I told my mom, you got to stop looking at this guy because this guy been locked up for 1988. I don't know what he did to get that scar, but if he tries to talk to you, it's going to be a problem on his floor because I'm not going to tolerate that disrespect. She's telling me, shut up. You don't even know what you're talking about. I know that guy. Don't tell me who I don't know. I'll birth you. So me and her going back and forth. The guy gets up and she says, Rico, and he looks at my mom and he says, Evelyn. And from that moment on, he put me under the wing. Until for those 3 years, every incident that I got into, every infraction, he was involved. So once he checked my paperwork and he seen that I wasn't a rat or anything, none of that, he pulled me to the courts. Because they got courts up there, food courts, weight courts, and everybody can't. It's not everyone. It's not access to everyone. You have to be somebody. You have to know somebody. So he introduced me to guys. He told me Spanish, stick with the Spanish. There's a lot of racism in the prisons and all that. And he showed me the ropes. But one thing about him is that when he left. Soon as he left me. That was my introduction to solitary confinement. Because everything that he was keeping me away from was now I was open to. You know what I'm saying?
Every morning starts the same for me. Coffee, a walk with my dog Boone, and of course, throwing on my Shady Rays. I've got to be honest, I used to just grab whatever cheap sunglasses I had lying around, but once I started wearing Shady Rays, I got hooked. Want to know what I love the most about them? I've got different pairs for different vibes. One for casual morning walks with Boone, and another when I'm filming or heading out. These things aren't just for show, they're high quality, polarized, and built to handle whatever the day throws at you. Shady Rays has a wide selection of styles and colors. I challenge you to find your perfect pair of Shady Rays. Go try it out. Go to shadyrays.com and use code LOCKEDIN for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Now here's the best part. They offer lost and broken protection from day one. Plus, if for any reason you're not feeling them, you can exchange or return them within 30 days. Personally, I'm rocking the matte black frames with polarized lenses. Clean, simple, goes with everything, even sweatpants on those early walks with Boone. Exclusively for my listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal for the season. Head to shadyrays.com and use code LOCKEDIN for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Thanks to Shady Rays for supporting Locked In. Go grab a pair before this summer's over. Now let's get back into today's episode. What do you think was the biggest lesson he taught you as someone that was new in that environment? Max security prison, you're young.
Mind your business. Mind your business. That was my biggest thing. Mind your business. You don't do nothing. Don't open no doors. He told me familiarity breeds contempt. You know what I'm saying? And then he told me never glorify. Never glorify the prison thing. Because people turn their back on you when you go incarcerated. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's glorified by the prison life. You know what I'm saying? But it's nothing but destruction that it causes. You know what I'm saying? 17, 18, 19, all the way to 26, my family did that time with me. You know? And I couldn't realize that at that age. That, you know, my mom was and my grandma, they was all hurting with me. You understand? And he used to tell me, like, yo, don't pass nothing, because the job that we had, it was light heat and power, right? So this was light heat and power. So this was plumbing, the glazers, any windows fixing the whole entire jail, they would come to our shop. And lighting and the electricity, so it was electric, plumbing, and glazing, right? 17 years old, I got my GED, so they brought me to the shop as OJT, on-job training, as a plumber. I would carry the toolbox for the plumbers. till I got on-job training. I learned how to unclog toilets, unclog sinks. Disgusting, right? We had TVs. So Max After Dark is fucking full with fucking cum. Stopping up the sinks and stopping up. I would have to clean all that, right? But the perks of light, heat, and power, right, is you get to shower every day. You get to do laundry every day. You get to get a haircut every day. We had ironing boards. We had cooking shit, you know? And this is a facility where it's a cooking facility, but you have to cook in the yard, right? Or you have to cook in on the block where they have stoves inside the block where the guys escape from, essentially, right? Because B block, where it was on the block, instead of where you come back from rec and you lock in, is honorary. They have TVs on the gallery where you had the option to stay out on your gallery for an extra hour or so. So extra rec. So that was the perks of honor dorm, right? More freedom, more looseness, right? So in light, heat, and power, the guy, Mr. Plumador, I don't want to say his name though, but the civilian, he said, I don't never let guys under the age of 25 work here, or any guys that's gang affiliated work here. I'm doing this because of Mr. Santiago, as a favor for him, that he's been here for 10 years. And this is my guy. Any infraction, any ticket, anything passing on the galleries, you're done. You're not coming back. So I stood there, whatever. One day, a guy told me, yo, I just flushed something down the toilet, but it stopped up. If you could grab that for me, I got you. So I'm thinking I'm going to get some weed or whatever the case. I look for, check, unclog the stuff for him. Come to find out, there's nothing there. Now he's blaming me. Now I owe him a tab. So now I owe him a tab for whatever he got or whatever he lost or whatever he didn't have. And it's putting pressure on me to come to the yard and pay him or else. So I told the guys, yo, look, I don't even know this guy. I don't know what he's talking about. Come to find out, the guys that have been in prison, lifers, you know, they know the dude. They stepped to the dude immediately, squashed him for even, you know, trying to insinuate me because he didn't know that I was a young one coming up with them or whatever, under them. And I stood in Clinton for 07, 2008, 2009. February, my classification dropped. And I went to Franklin Correctional Facility. And when you get off the bus in Franklin, they tell you this is a hands-on facility. Before you get an infraction and that ticket comes to you, you will get hands put on to you. So I told the sergeant, like, you might as well put me back on the bus and send me back to the max, because I'm not letting nobody put their hands on me. They put their hands on me. They threw me a beat down of a lifetime.
Tell us about that first one. What happened?
So when I went to the SHU, no cameras, small box, they had this guy. He was called the Iceman. He had a baby, a black baby hanging from a noose, tattooed on his arm. And he was supposedly been on Oprah or one of them shows for killing inmates. He still had a job. He came from Lakeview. And he would tell you, because you had to get strip searched before you get into the boxes, to your cells, to solitary confinement. And he would tell you it would have on the wall where to put your feet and where to put your hands. So he would say, you put your hands on the wall, put your feet, whatever. Give me, with your right hand, remove your left shoe without taking your eyes off the wall. So he would say things to confuse you. Let me get your right hand with your left foot or your left foot with your right foot. And as soon as you fuck up, pow! He would fucking assault you off rip. But it wasn't him alone. It would be another 10 guys look like linebackers in a small area, strip search area with you. So, I already know the drill. In my head, I'm like, this guy's gonna hit me. As soon as he hits me, I'm taking my hands off the wall and I'm punching him right in the nose. They're gonna get me anyway. He says, with the right hand, remove your left foot. Keep your hands on the wall. So when I go to remove, I lose balance. My hand goes off the wall. He goes to strike. And then they all bum rush, whatever. And I said to myself, all right, if he hits me again, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to sock him. He gives me a direct order. He tells me, yo, what you in here for? Disrespecting my officers. What did you do? I says, I ain't do shit. He hits me again. Bow! I said, oh, shit. If he smacks me one more time, I'm getting off this wall. And so he tells me, when you talk, it's sir, yes, sir. It begin with sir. I said, sir, I didn't do shit, sir. He smacked me again. The third time I got off the wall, they bum rushed me. They put my legs in the air. They was trying to kick me in my testicles. They was trying to kick my teeth out. At that point, I was just curling up trying to protect myself as best as I knew how. When I went into my cell, there's a sense of hopelessness that I never felt before, being taken advantage of. The infirmary came, the nurse came. I explained to her that my wrist was broken. They didn't feed me for 9 days after that. I was on what you would call restricted diet.
Is that the loaf?
That's the loaf. So after a visit, I had one visit, and I told my family what was going on, but I told them not to make an issue out of it because it's gonna make it worse. And when I came back off the visit, he told me like basically, yo, is there gonna be some phone calls? Is the superintendent, whatever? And I told him, nah, it ain't gonna be none of that, because I knew they was all against me. So then he proceeded to feed me. After 9 days, I got my first meals or whatever the case. And then from Franklin, my classification rose back up. I was in Comstock 2009 and 2010. And at that point, I was in electric and I was bidding, but essentially on my own. 21 years old, 22 years old, 2-3 years in prison. When you in the max, you get FRP program. So you get family reunion program where you get trailers. Anyone from your immediate family could come visit you and you can spend the weekend with them or the weekday, depending on roughly 72-hour visits. And when I would go on the FRPs, my family would sneak me like DVDs and fucking little nips of alcohol, and you know what I'm saying, and shit like that, contraband like that or whatever the case, and to make you feel like, you know, at home, and help you with your time or whatever. But in Comstock, I got into a fight. I never lasted 6 months in the prison, so I made a bet with a guy. We betted 2 packs of cigarettes on Minnesota Vikings versus whoever the fuck they was when Brett Favre was on the Vikings. And I won. He didn't pay me. I socked him out. And then in Comstock, they got this thing where even when you're not resisting, you're resisting. They're like, stop resisting. And I'm like, yo, I'm not resisting. And they still just bash you. And it was one of those things where I was on top of the guy and I was socking him out. And he was like, they wrote the ticket as use of force that I went against the police or whatever. So I got 6 months in the box for that. I went to upstate box. When I was in upstate box, this is my first time being ever introduced to heroin. My first time I seen a bag of heroin was in solitary confinement in Malone, New York, all the way in the mountains, in a 2-man cell. My bunkie was doing a year and I was doing 6 months. And he showed me a bag of heroin. It was gray. And he said, yo, this that Afghanistan. And he said, yo, you want a line? You want a bump? And I said, yo, man, I never sniffed nothing up my nose in my life. And from that moment on, I was privy to the contraband shit and drugs and how they got them in. And that 6 months after I got out upstate box, solitary confinement, I went to Elmira, one of the worst jails I've ever seen. And when I immediately, my first day into the recreation go, I seen a guy get cut. And they pass him the weapon. And the guy he passes the weapon to cuts him. And then he gets away with it. because the other two guys are fighting. So immediately, my frame of thinking at that age is like, I need a weapon. I need something for protection. You know what I'm saying? I got to get on the phone, call my family. I got to protect my packages, whatever, this, that, and the third. I got caught up in an incident with another guy. He was affiliated, and I bought some cassette tapes off of him, and he reneged on the deal. Like, I paid him, and he gave me different music than what I was supposed to get. One thing led to another, and he essentially told me to suck his dick. He sucked my dick. And I cut him up or whatever behind that. I went to the box. And that was my first slashing. I went to the box for that for 6 months. I went to Easton. I was in Easton, New York. And that's where, essentially, I learned a lot from programming.
Why is Elmira so dangerous? Do the guards let it happen to be that way, or is it the inmates controlling it? What makes a place that dangerous from your perspective?
Elmira, wow. I would say it's just as dangerous as any other prison. There's no particular reason why it's dangerous. But a lot of prison guards from Elmira, I guess a lot of prison guards are familiar with some of the upstate inmates from that area. From Elmira's a town in New York. Syracuse, I seen guys wrestling with the inmates. COs wrestling with the inmates. And I would think that those inmates are rats, but they're not. They're actually the guys running shit that are friends with the COs. That the COs will crack your cell and let the guys run in and take everything you got. Or the COs turn a blind eye, when it's time to come back from programs or the rec, and the guys will do you filthy. So real loose. I guess in that controlled environment, it's a lot of loose movement. That's what makes it dangerous in that prison, in that particular prison, because they have this block called I Block, which they called Iraq, which is like just high, I guess is that high violence. And I was in Elmira for 6 months, and I caught a slashing in there because it was a situation where it was either me or them. And it was never like, again, I was defending myself. I will always put myself in positions where I will have to defend myself or prove myself to me, And a lot of pride and ego, man, that shit gets you, it's a big trouble. And when I got to Easton is where a lot of things started changing for me. I started maturing. I went to programs where I was with lifers, and they would ask me, like, who are you? Why you always going to the box? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And then that's when the critical thinking I started analyzing everything. And I started to form a shell, become more of a Tyson. Keep to myself, program, facilitate some programs, participate in all sports activities. And then my classification dropped again. I went to Walk Hill, which essentially was a church. When you get to Walk Hill, they give you a key. There's no rapists, it's just straight up drug offenders and violent offenders. And in Walk Hill, they give you a key in the room. You lock yourself in the room, right? For count, you got to open your door. And it's free movement. It's a small jail, roughly 500 inmates, 200 to 500 inmates in Walk Hill at the time. And I was on my way to go home within the next 2 years. And got into a big fight, big brawl. And they took my good time. And instead of coming home in 2014 of August, I came home in 2015 of February, where I was released. And getting back into society, 26 years old, all that prison time, like I still was carrying that rep. And I started working construction, saved my money. The wintertime came. I had about 4 or 5,000 in my bank account, and I went right back to the streets selling drugs. And I caught my second felony, sale of crack cocaine to an undercover officer.
Now, you were mentioning that the guys that had life are trying to teach a young person like yourself the ropes and the lessons.
100%.
Why do you think it takes someone to get life in prison to be able to be that influence, that positive influence?
Because they know all the ins and outs. They run the politics. They run the prison, essentially. They even, well, basically, like, when I was in Clinton, I would have never survived in Clinton without them guys. The guys had me living like the movies, like mobsters. We had lockers full of food. We would get commissary and packages from the real world that we weren't allowed. We weren't allowed bones, T-bone steaks and all that because the bone could turn into a shank. So you're not allowed that. But the package room officer was our steady relief officer in the shop. So he would let everything get in, and the guys would cook for him. The guys will cook for him and give him bowl. He'll take the fucking food was so delicious that he will go and take food to his wife at home. You know what I'm saying? For Christmas and for New Year's. And without these guys to show you the ropes, it would be reckless. It would be no hose bars. It would be no rules, no regulations. It would be fucking chaos.
But they lost their entire life. Like you would think when you have like they're able to get that type of knowledge after losing their life to prison. If you look at it and you're like, why couldn't they have gotten that knowledge before it got to that point?
Well, I think that it's just a different world. It's prison is the real world, but under a controlled environment. So these guys learn principles and morals that they didn't have in the street. You understand? They get introduced to Plato and fucking, you never had a fucking philosopher. You never met a philosopher in prison.
Oh, you meet them all the time.
They fucking guys read 100 books in 1 week.
But it's not the 20-year-olds. It's the 60 or 70-year-olds that are on their second 20-piece bid that have finally learned, and they're down to their last 5-6 years left. And that's when they get it. And that's when they want to stay out of the way.
Yeah, but you see a lot of them, sometimes they come home and they're institutionalized to the point where they can't function in society.
Can't readjust.
They cannot readjust. And you think and you look at them and you was like, yo, that guy was a somebody in prison, essentially ran prison yards and ran prison, whatever the case. But this guy can't even pay rent. Or this guy can't, he's fucked up, can't even feed his kids or whatever the case. And it's all about networking. And nowadays I don't tell the young guys nothing, because they gotta go through their own experiences, and they gotta learn it their way. Just hopefully your mistakes are not permanent. Like you don't get your first bid, don't be a 25 to life or 15 to life. And sometimes when you get these skid bids, a 1 to 3 or a 2 to 4, you don't learn anything because everything is too fast. It's an experience. But when you do anything typically more than 5 years, it's like a permanent stay. You tend to learn that, you have to keep busy. You have to have a routine. You have to be responsible. You have to do things so you don't come back, because it's so easy to get caught back up. They say a idle mind is a devil's playground. And that's what it was for me. Prison. It was like a big fucking playground. Because when I came back for the crack sale, I was on contraband time. So essentially my first prison bid, I was a kid. When I went back at 26 years old, I was a grown man. And everything was about money with me. I was selling Suboxone strips. I was selling K2. I was selling weed. I was smuggled on the visit floor. I was smuggled on the festival. I was smuggled through the legal mail. I was smuggled through the fucking outside clearance. We had a guy, he would get it, he would put it in the ceiling in the CO's bathroom. And then after the shift, when the guys come from the prison to clean up the CO's bathroom, they would get it. They don't get searched. They'll put 5-6 ounces in their shorts and bring it back to us. And we will make thousands of dollars. We make 10,000 in 1 month. You know, a couple grand in a week. And that's how I was living on my second bid until I got jammed up.
How'd you get jammed up?
The dogs. They had dogs on a visit, and dogs sniffed out my visitor. The dog sniffed out my visitor. She got locked up. She did 30 days. And then they didn't come get me till like a week after. I was just incriminating myself on the phone, trying to figure out what's going on, what's happening. And then when they came and got me, when I least expected it, they told me, they was like, yo, IG. He told me, you can't force anybody to do anything. You can't go to jail for forcing anybody to do anything. Right then and there, I knew that was a lie. And then he says, so I picked up 220 Suboxone strips in 4 jails this whole entire weekend. 190 of them were yours. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he sent me to the box. I got out the box. I had no woman. I had no fucking phone privileges. I had no fucking visit privileges. Everything was revoked. And that's when I was depressed. I got into a depression after that. And then that's when I started working out, going to the gym faithfully. You didn't go lift weights in prison?
The last year, yeah. So we had the weight pit in the first prison I was at, but that was all politicked out, and I never did that. I didn't care. I was just eating the commissary, loading up. I went in, I was like 290 pounds when I went into prison. I was a big boy.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was when I got to the camp, I was in a workout car with some guys. We converted the weights outside, like with cinder blocks and everything, and I was running a couple, 3-4 miles a day, and I lost all the weight. And what really set it off was when I did 6 months in solitary.
Mm-hmm.
I lost like probably 50, 60 pounds in there. Just eating 3 meals a day, no snacking. That's why I don't really even snack now.
So did you have a bunkie in solitary confinement?
Yeah, I had both. I would be solo. One time I had 3. It was me plus 2, mattress on the floor in a tiny cell, you know, middle of the summer. But yeah, it was when I was alone when I became the orderly when I was in Danbury. That's when they had me painting. I was the painter, the prison painter. But solitary was no fun, but I did lose all that weight because you're only getting 3 meals, and the only thing you get on commissary, because you're restricted, is saltine crackers or Ritz crackers. That's it. If it was a bad meal, you're eating crackers.
Now things are changing. You get commissary in solitary confinement.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes, they give you tablets. They let you get phone calls.
That's what they need.
Yeah.
You're going to go crazy if you don't have that. I got 1 phone call a month for 6 months. 1 visit once a week when I was local. An hour visit. You're in the orange jumpsuit.
Mm-hmm.
Sucks.
No contact.
No contact, nothing, man. It's rough.
Yeah, I lived that, man. I lived that for many years. So when I was in solitary confinement, one thing that helped me to get by was reading. And there's nothing else to fucking do.
I read a book a day.
Yeah. John Grisham, read them all.
I love John Grisham. That's so cool.
John Grisham, fucking...
Pelican Brief was my very first one.
I like The Cadillac Lawyer.
Yep. And you know, a lot of people don't know he did the Christmas with the Cranks one. That became the movie that they called it. That's not the name of the book, but they turned it into that movie, which is totally different than his normal lineup of books.
Yeah.
But I love him. He's really good. It makes it read like a movie.
Mm-hmm. And
Robert Patterson too.
Robert Patterson, yeah, with his thrillers. And but again, like I was introduced to drugs in solitary confinement. Could you believe that? Fucking first time I ever seen heroin. And we were fucking fish drugs back and forth, money orders. We got lit. We wound up having 2-3 ounces in the fucking cell. Don't ask me, we had nothing. But again, my bunkie, he was seasoned. He had 10 years in. He told the porter, like, yo, I got green. And the porter gave him a pouch of tobacco. So when we went to rec, outside rec, he told the guys, yo, I got tobacco. I want some weed. And the guys that was smuggling shit on the visiting floor would trade the green for the brown, and then he would take some of the green, some of the weed, and give it to the other guy. And from there, started a whole line of, for the whole 6 months, we fucking got, they came and they ransacked our cell. We put everything in our shoes. And we had about 4 ounces in our shoes, stepping on our shoes, shackled. They didn't find nothing, never. And that's how we lived life and we got by.
Why do you think that first prison sentence wasn't enough to deter you? I mean, you were doing a lot of time in max security. Inmates saw a lot of violence, or max security prisons saw a lot of violence. Why was that not a big enough deterrent when you got out that first time?
Because I guess I wasn't mature enough, to keep it simple. When I got out, I had the right mindset to do things, and I was ambitious and determined. But for a good part of my life, I ain't getting no pussy. So I didn't know what it felt like. I never took a girl to the movies. I never had a job. At 27 years old, I never had a job, never took a girl to the movies. I missed out on a lot. So what came with that missing out was like, you know, trying to make up for lost time. So yeah, I was on track doing the right thing, working, taking care of my family, but on the side, I was always trying to make up for lost time, which essentially led me back to my incarceration because trying to get fast money. You know what I'm saying?
How long did you serve the second bid?
5 years, 4 years and 11 months.
What changed that second time when you got out?
Everything was mundane. When you go the second time, my first time going up north, my second time going up north, I seen an officer that was my escort from solitary confinement. He was a blue shirt or CO, and now he was a white shirt on his way out the door out of retirement. And when he looked at me in the reception area with a new number, of a 17 number, 2017 number. So it's been, I came up upstate 2007, then I came back again 10 years later. And everybody in the reception area was new, first time offenders, you know, and he seen me and he knew that I was seasoned or whatever the case, because he used to escort me to my visits every week. And he was a sergeant now. And he told me, he said, hey, inmate, whatever. He said, how was your visit? And I was like, what visit? He was like, your visit home. Now you're back home. You just went to go visit. And he said, I got a house. I just bought a house. You guys helped me buy a house. And he was just like, you know, trolling me. He's a sergeant now. He's on his way retirement and all that. And that just made me feel ashamed. You understand? It wasn't my first time as a youngster. I was, everything was a learning experience. My second time, it was like I lived it already. The mediums, the maximums, the solitary confinement. I already knew everybody. Some of these kids, they never got their first infraction. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be their first trip to the box. You know what I'm saying? And then just wanting to do better. You know, they say by the age of 25, up to the age of 25, you're judged by potential. After the age of 25, you're judged by results. So I always subtracted the 13 years that I was incarcerated. I used that as like I was suspended in time. And I used that 5 years to really tap in with my identity, because a lot of people don't know their identity. You know, they don't know who they are or where they want to go or what purpose they have or whatever the case. So when I tapped in on my second bid or whatever, and I realized that, you know, this is not the same. I don't want to do this no more, whatever the case. And then, Plus, you know, I got family that, you know, that's successful, that always had my back. Even them used to come visit me on the visit floor. I used to make our other cousin, Tatito, kick off sneakers with me that were contraband inside the jail. You couldn't have no sneakers that said Air, no Air Jordans, no Nike Uptowns. And I used to have all that stuff because they would come visit me on my birthdays and they would kick off on the floor or whatever. And Nems would always tell me, yo, when you get out, yo, I'm doing this for Busta Rhymes. I'm doing this. Yo, when you get out, we going on the road. We going to do this. We going to do that. And I'll be like, yeah, I bet. I'm down. I'm going to be doing this, yo. And I came out. The Bing Bong shit happened. And everything he said came into fruition. So...
How important was having a figure like that, a figure like Nems, after prison? Like having someone that could actually put you into a good spot, associate with different people than you're used to, help you succeed in life. I mean, because now you guys, you work with him, correct, at the store? Or?
It's surreal sometimes. Sometimes I can't even believe it. When you're sitting with Paul Rosenberg and fucking A$AP Rocky and fucking some of these guys, I never could have fathomed that. Traveling 42 states. We did what, 40 states in fucking 45 days? And making money and getting paid.
And being with your family.
And being with my family and making memories and stuff like that. It's surreal. And I'm grateful for it. You know what I'm saying? I never try to like stand down, never try to do too much. I always try to play my position, you know what I'm saying? Until opportunity strikes or whatever the case, and I try to be prepared for it, whatever. But until then, I'm the guy, like whatever he needs, I'm down. Like I'm saying, I support what he got going on.
And he's got a lot of love for you though too.
Yeah, because I remember when he was doing everything he was doing. Even now, 20 years ago, he's doing the same thing. He wasn't getting paid. Telling people, don't ever disrespect me. Don't ever just... And he was doing it for free, trying to break out. And then now he's at this level where he is. So I try to support him and help him to get bigger. You know what I'm saying? And, yeah. So every time he goes to these platforms with that have anything to do with prison, he always throws me in there or whatever. Because, you know, when we go upstairs to your...
The prison cell, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I remember having all of that in my locker, having all of that in other people's locker. You know what I'm saying?
It's cool to see people's reactions when we bring them upstairs to see that. I didn't think when I built that would be a thing, and it just brings people back to those times, and that's something we all have in common. I mean, me and you grew up so differently, but we do share something in common.
100%.
And I think it's so cool that, you know, someone like Nems is bringing along his family or friends along the journey, because that's what I'm doing now with Matt. You know, you met Matt, and just, it doesn't feel real sometimes. Having your best friend, we live together, just working, having fun, hanging out, you know, meeting people.
The beauty, I tell Nems all the time, the beauty behind these things, like I'm 36 years old, I don't have no ops. I don't have beef for nobody. All my differences have been settled. You know what I'm saying? I try to downplay a lot of what I've done or what I've been through because it's nothing to brag about or it's nothing to glorify. Plus, you don't want to open up no old wounds. You know what I'm saying? I would hate to be with somewhere with my family on business, and I gotta address or I'm putting my family on harm's way. So I take pride in that. We could go all over the country. We could go anywhere on God's green earth, and there's not too much things that you're gonna hear negative. And essentially nothing at all that you're going to hear negative about me, you know what I'm saying? Mostly honorable, stand-up, individual things because prison taught me how to be a man, you know? I came in there, I was a little dirty nigga. My cell was dirty, I was fucking smoking rollies, my fingertips was brown, you know what I'm saying? I had to learn the hard way how to fucking get up and shave and clean and do this and do that and develop a routine. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until I got to Easton where I started to develop a routine. I started to get in tune with my inner self. I started reading. I started writing. I started formulating my thoughts, articulating myself, or fucking just working on myself. A lot of self-help. You understand? I participated in college correspondence. I did desktop publishing, typing 60 words, 75 words per minute, or whatever the case. When you go to prison, sometimes you become a jack of all trades to things that's so useless to you. Sometimes you got guys that really make it something. But for the most part, you're learning all these things of how to fucking fix a lawnmower, how the things that's so useless for when you get back out into society. But one thing I learned is social capital. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's who you know. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's what this is with my cousin, you know what I'm saying? Getting to know people like you know what I'm saying? You know, I'm fascinated at your content. I love it.
And that's all because someone slid in my DMs to connect me to NEMS.
Right?
It's just crazy how life works. And the fact that it takes so many, you think about, I always think about this, so many things have to come together for something special to happen. His manager DMing me, and then I happened, after getting back from a few months working on that project, looking at my DMs that were in spam because I wasn't following him, and then seeing that, setting it up, him responding right away saying, hey, he'll be there that Saturday. Then NEMS bringing you, then we going out to dinner, and then now we're here a couple weeks later. It's crazy.
Yeah, OD.
I love it, man. It's just
Did
so
you
good.
ever, I wanted to ask you though.
Yeah.
Did you ever get introduced to any prison drugs? Boxing or chinita, none of that?
I've never been into drugs, I was always a guy that, faked smoking weed in high school to be cool. And then I did the club stuff, the raves and stuff, but I was under the Fed's eyes, so I couldn't be, doing Molly or anything. And then everything started happening with coke being laced and stuff, so I didn't want to do that. I've just never been into it. I smoke weed now. I do edibles, here and there, but the Mike Tyson stuff.
Yeah.
But other than that, it doesn't amuse me, I'm not interested in it. I like a good drink. I'll drink. I've been drinking more lately, but.
So, it's just, did you ever see yourself like doing this, creating this kind of content after surviving prison?
No, bro, I get emotional about it like so often. Like just seeing, I'll walk in here and I'll just sit and I'll just stare at everything I built, knowing that it came from the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. Like that shit was hard. Like watching everyone just hate on me on social media, put me through the mud. I lost literally everything. Every friend except for a couple people. I had 2 friends visiting me in prison. Family members bad-mouthing me, relationships I lost everything. And coming out and literally going and working at Whole Foods for minimum wage, digging myself out, and just grinding for 3 years doing that, all while people would refer to me as the prison kid, the kid that went to prison, his life's over. To then, because my friend convinced me to quit my job and start talking about prison. And the first 6 months of making content, I was so embarrassed. People would look at me in the gas station. Oh, this is stupid. This isn't going anywhere, He's just talking about prison. And then when I saw that I could turn this into a business and I started meeting people like Mike Tyson and, bigger names and just improving my interviewing skills and paying back so much money towards the restitution that from the investors that lost money, that's when I kind of realized I had something. I think this year really made it feel special, and there's just so much more I could go. And, I'm just so happy I could bring like my best friend along with it and the relationships that I'm meeting now and the people. And you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about family. And most importantly, you learn about what really matters in life. I think I had the wrong values before. Now they're more aligned. And I think when you figure that out in life, you attract people to you that meet those values. You attract the right people in your life. You attract friends. You attract relationships, anything. And when you're ready to get that success, that's when it's going to come. And I feel like now I'm in my era of I'm going to get everything that, I dreamed about in solitary.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in that solitary 6-7 years ago, writing down, I still have the notes, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be successful. And I didn't become successful based on those things that I thought I would become successful for. But ultimately, I became successful and I got everything I ever wanted. And it still keeps coming back to me. And there's still so much more to do. And now I just want to give back and I want to do more things and I want to do more good. And I just want to be the best man I could possibly be.
100%. 2 things that come to my mind when you say that is one, a Mike Tyson story when I was in Elmira. And 2, I remember feeling the same way you felt, like ashamed and not wanting to glorify or heighten stuff. But it comes out organically because prison's such a big part of my life. So people want to know, we don't want to hear that prison story, or you always want to, but it's just such a part of me that it comes out. And this is why NEMS always wants me to do these platforms and stuff, because it comes out naturally when we're out and about, and the stories are funny, fascinating, and worthwhile. You understand? And every story that we make fun of and we laugh about and is about my past or whatever the case, but it's a learning lesson. You understand? And we take pride in knowing and acknowledging what the things that we've learned, so we don't repeat them in the future. You know what I'm saying? And it's important to not let your felonies disenfranchise you, to label who you are. You understand? And you could become whoever you want to become. You understand? And I learned all that the hard way throughout years of solitary confinement and all that. When I was in Elmira, I had a neighbor. His name was Blacko, from Brownsville. And he said that Mike Tyson was his childhood friend. He told a million Mike Tyson stories. And I never believed none of them, right? Until I read Mike Tyson's book he gave me. And then Mike Tyson talks about going to DFY and being in juvenile and seeing all his childhood friends and thinking like, all my friends is here, whatever. He was one of them. Because when we got out the cell and I read the book and I started talking to him about the book and we started talking about flying pigeons and all that, he says, I don't do this, but here, shorty, check this out. When we lock in, open that up. And I looked up the photo album. It's pictures of him and Mike Tyson, his mom's apartment in Brownsville, when Mike was going back to the neighborhoods, I guess, whenever he wasn't fighting or whatever. He would go fly pigeons with this guy. This is back in the days. And I seen all the pictures. And I knew, this guy's not lying, man. And he was my friend behind that. And we got kind of cool or whatever. He was an older dude, but we got kind of cool or whatever. And I just love how your story is unique, man, and it speaks for the other side. It's like predators and prey.
That was the prey.
Yeah, it's like you represent the prey. Because you had to be prey. If for a prison guard to push up on you in the mess hall, you had to be fucking sweet. You had to be one of the most easygoing guys for a prison guard to be plotting on your buns.
Melo, there's women listening to this right now.
Yo, that is insane.
I know. But it was the best thing that could ever happen to me. I play the prey card because no one else has done that before in this genre, you know? You got all of the shot callers and the tough ones, and you never had someone like me saying that his buns almost got taken by a male prison guard. Not even a woman prison guard. It was a male prison guard.
That's insane.
And I own it, you know?
And then, for sure, it's definitely booty bandits that's doing life right now that prey on young timers up and coming, whether it be a little touch or a little feel or a honey bun on your bed. That shit is real. You understand? But I feel like they know what tree to climb, what tree to bark up.
Yeah, what tree to bark up. Yeah.
And I guess you would know. You'll be more familiar with that or whatever the case. But yeah, like I love it, man. You give a voice to like
the voiceless.
The voice, exactly, because that's exactly who I was. I would be like, I always got into problems with the oppressors. The people that were running the phones or the people that was running this, that's the people I would get into problems with. And it would be like a repeating act until I learned to keep to myself. I had to learn how to be an onion and that everybody's not valuable of my time or my presence or my opinion. You understand? And then that's what I would get guys that can't get on the phone, that got decent guys that got families. And I would give them my phone time. I would get them on the phone. I would get them on the stove. I would get them on to watch a show or whatever the case. And that's the type of guy that I was, you know? And that's why I formed the bonds and the relationships that I did. And that's how I survived, you know?
I love that. Well, Melo, thanks so much for coming on the show today,
Yeah, no
man.
doubt, man.
This
It's
was
a pleasure.
incredible. I love that you just took the lead with your story and you were able to, like, you told it so perfectly, you know? And it's funny because you told me about the first very interview you did after prison and you would learn from that. And I feel like so many people can relate to that.
100%.
And you could tell, like, you studied it and you learned it and you got it down so in sync. So you'll be even better the next one, too.
100%.
But thanks again, man. I'm looking forward to, you know, continuing our friendship, and I appreciate you both, you and Nems, very much.
And I learned a lot from you. You heard, Ian?
Yeah.
And I appreciate what you got to offer, and I appreciate the knowledge that you've been giving us and putting us on game.
Absolutely. And I look forward to seeing you guys at that launch party next month.
Yeah, no question, for sure.
Awesome.